welcome back to my channel. In this video I'd like to show you how I made this very easy torso cake or upper body cake because a friend of mine had her bachelorette party and yeah, perfect occasion for me to do some baking. So I started off with baking her favorite chocolate cake in a quite big size. It's almost like a sheet pan size. So pretty big, but use any kind of cake you like. Bake it to the package direction or to the direction of your recipe. Let it cool completely, and after that we're going to start at this point here. So my cake is cooled completely. What I'm doing now is cutting it in half so we can fill it nicely, and before filling it I like to soak my cake layers. So what I did was I took some of the pineapple juice that was in the can because it's nice and fruity and sweet. What I also did was took some of this blue curacao syrup. I don't know if you know what this is, if you can get it where you live, but it's a syrup we use to mix cocktails. So yeah, it's a sugar syrup, but it's non-alcoholic. So the syrup itself, there's no alcohol, as is in the pineapple juice. So the soak is non-alcoholic, and with that soak I soaked my cake layer. First I soaked the bottom half, and in a little while I'm going to soak the top half. But before we come to that, I took some of my Swiss meringue buttercream, applied that in a nice even and quite thin layer on top of the cake. Then I sprinkled some pineapple chunks on, and the last thing I did was I took some roasted coconut chips and sprinkled those on top as well. Then I applied the other half of my cake again, so we have a nice cake sandwich. And yeah, next thing I did was I trimmed my cake so we can achieve a nice shape in the shape of the upper body of the stripper I was trying to make. So I took a nice sharp serrated knife and carved out some of the spots I thought where the abs were going to be and the chest muscles were going to be. I also carved out some of the lower part so he can have a nice waistline, and everything looks a bit more realistic. But all in all, that step is quite easy and not 100% necessary, but you're gonna see that in a while. So after I was done with the carving, I took my soak again, soaked the top part, the top layer of my cake, and after that I applied my Swiss meringue buttercream again. The first layer I'm applying here is quite thin actually, because the first layer for me also always works as to how do you say that? To keep the crumbs in, like a crumb coat, there you go. So first layer very thin, just apply it nice and evenly. What I did to carve out the sides, since we have nice curves on this cake, is I took a piece of plastic, which in my case was the lid of a cream cheese container, cut off the edges, and yeah, with that piece of plastic I carved out the abs and the chest muscles and all those curves, because my offset spatula is a bit too hard, obviously, so a nice bendable piece of plastic always works very nice with this kind of cake. After I applied my first layer of the buttercream, I cooled my cake in the fridge for around 2 hours to make it very nice and firm, which I highly recommend because it's always easier to work with a nice and firm cake, especially when you try to sculpt try to achieve a different kind of shape. So if you have a nice cool cake, it's always easier to work out those grooves and those edges and those curves. So this part here is around 2 hours later when my cake is fully cooled. I'm applying my second layer of buttercream, and also I'm trying to again try to sculpt out my ab part and the chest muscles and like give it some shape and nice curves. After I was done with that, I put my cake in the fridge again for another, I don't know, 60 seconds or so before rolling out my fondant. And rolling out the fondant, I colored previously in a kind of ivory shape to mimic the color of the skin. So we have a nice skin color of the fondant. Roll it out nice and thin, use some cornstarch so nothing sticks to the table, and then apply it onto your cake. Since we have quite a large surface where the fondant is laying on top, in my case there was not much problem with any kind of folds on the bottom of the cake, so smoothing out the fondant is quite easy. What I also did was I took the leftover of my cake, rolled it into a nice ball, applied some cornstarch onto my cake, and then with the leftover fondant I smoothed out the actual cake, because with a hard, stiff cake smoother it doesn't work for me. So I like to have a nice bendable piece of fondant and polish out the fondant this way. After I was done with that, my fondant kind of started to sweat a little, because at this time and in this time of year, obviously it's quite warm since it's summer, so my cake started to sweat a little bit, which was fine. It wasn't ideal, but it still worked out kind of good, because what I did next here was I took some baking cocoa, so unsweetened cocoa powder, and I dusted the edges and the grooves and the curves of my cake to have a bit more depth and have a bit more shadow, so it looks a bit more realistic and not as flat. Since if you don't apply any kind of color, cakes often appear to be very flat and just very dull. So if you apply some powdered color, everything comes to life a bit better in my case, in my opinion. So for the nipples, I just took some darker ivory kind of color fondant, rolled out some round shapes and stuck those on very easy, so nothing special, nothing fancy. For the bottom half, I tried to mimic some kind of jeans, so I took a bit of blue fondant, which I colored in a jeans blue kind of color. I tried to roll that out in a rectangular shape, see if everything fits nicely, which it did. I cut a little bit of an edge inside my long piece of fondant, applied that with some water so everything sticks nicely. Before I did that, I took some more of my cocoa powder to give it a bit more depth and shadow underneath those jeans, because that was the look I was going for. So I applied some cocoa powder, then I applied some water so the fondant sticks nicely to each other, smooth it out, cut off the rest. Very easy. I don't think you need to have any explanation for that part. What I did next was apply some detailing, which is up to you how much detailing you want to add or not. I took some strips of my fondant to make it look like we have some jeans with some seams or stitching. There you go, that's the word I was looking for. But yeah, the detail is up to you. Try to see how many details you want to add, which look you're going for. Maybe you don't want to add jeans at all, I don't know. Just see what works for you. What I did next was I took a silicone mold with the shape of some buttons. Also very easy, I think that's quite common and nothing fancy, nothing new. So I made me a little button to use for the jeans, so the guy can, if he wants to, close his jeans. Before I stuck the button on, I colored it in a silver kind of color with some gel paste color. Applied that on. I thought it was funny, so I gave this guy some nipple piercings, which I colored also silver as well. Here comes the part with the detail where you take it as far as you want. So I did a bit of some detail work there, but that's up to you. Next thing I did was to roll out some pink fondant, because I wanted to give this guy some, is it called sash? The pink ribbon thingy girls have around their bodies when they go out to dance. I don't know, I think you get what I'm trying to say here, but I just rolled out a bit of pink fondant. Then I took out I used my leather stencil thingies. I made the lettering for GcF, which means yeah, hen's night or girls night out, or whatever you want to say. That's what I did here, and I applied those after I let them dry for around 30 minutes. And yeah, that's almost, oh yeah, I wrote bride to be, now I remember. It's been a while since I baked that cake, so I forgot what I was writing on that sash. So bride to be, there you go, nice, easy. I then trimmed the sash a bit because in my opinion it was a bit too large and just didn't really fit, so see what works for you here again. I didn't apply it flatly to the cake because I wanted to make it look like it's kind of flowing on top of him. So see if you can add some movement and don't just stick it on there completely flat, and it always looks boring. I forgot that normal humans have a belly button, so I had to add that in last. I totally forgot about that. I just used a ball tool, pushed in a little hole, and then I applied some cocoa powder to give it nice depth and some shadow again. Then I went over the muscles again, but all in all I think I was done with the cake. So here's the finished result. Since my cake was sweating quite a bit at the point where I was dusting with cocoa powder, my color applying wasn't that even, and it's quite a bit blotchy. In my case I didn't mind actually, so if you do mind, let your cake dry completely, which can take up to, I don't know, an hour or two when it is sweating. But if your cake isn't sweating at all, just apply your color and you'll be good to go. We then had a very nice night, drank some beer, just had a nice bachelorette party. There you go, they can see the cut cake. It was awesome. I hope you liked the video. It's quite easy. Let me know what you think. Write it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to check out other videos, click on the right or the left video. And yeah, see you soon. Bye.